on. You can unmute me, please.
Molly, you should be unmuted now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So who's controlling the mute and unmute?
We are.
So who is that? You, Jesus, or Cody, or who's?
I am, but if as a backup, Cody has it, and you have it as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
does
Thank you.
Seema.
Okay. I'm going to go just cheer for 1 minute, and if anyone else wants to do that, I will just set down my headset. But we should all be cheering. I don't know if in everyone else's neighborhood, mine is going crazy right now. So I'm going to go reach out the window. Hold on. Just set down my headset, but we should all be cheering. I don't know if in everyone else's neighborhood might. Okay, I'm back. Oh, okay. I thought I had my video on. Hi, Claude. So how many people are on the call right now? Looks like we have 57.
We have 60, and I imagine the number will go up as
Okay.
people come back from their clapping.
We have a lot of folks. Yeah. I was telling Jesus that my neighborhood kind of goes crazy, and we have an air horn. So we've been doing the air horn out our window, but it just ran out of gas, so we don't have any more air horn. But our neighborhood pots and pans and whistles and all sorts of things. Well, someone has an air horn now. Someone bought one. That's so funny. Yeah. So it's been fun to be able to do that. That's at least one bright spot in all of this. So I think we can get started if we have, it looks like we have over 63 folks joining. So they're still cheering. I don't know if you can hear the cheering out my window, but they're still going crazy. So let's just start the meeting. We're at Manhattan Community Board 6, and it's Tuesday, April 7th, the year 2020, at a little after 7. It's 7:03. And so this meeting obviously is a little different than usual. It's very unusual circumstances for all of us, and so I don't see a lot of people on the screen with their video, but I have my video on. I don't know if a lot of people just have their pictures, but it's nice to see everyone's faces. So welcome. And so I just wanted to set some quick ground rules. So in order to conduct a efficient meeting, we want to make sure we have some Zoom rules to follow. So no one speaks until granted the floor. Board members, if you have questions or wish to make a motion, you hopefully all know how to raise your hand on Zoom, and then I'll identify you, and then we can move through it that way. Votes for resolutions will be conducted by roll call, and we'll have the electeds. I have a list of folks here that will speak, so I'm excited that they've all joined us. But if we have any members of the public speaking, I'm not sure. I'll follow up with Jesus in the office to see if we have anyone wanting to speak. But just identify yourself, and you'll have a 3-minute time limit to speak. And we're required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of the meeting. So please keep your questions and comments succinct. We have to really write it needs to be verbatim. So we're required to have that transcript. So let's move forward with the adoption of the agenda for tonight, which was sent out by the board. It's posted online, so you see it before you scrolling through. So if there are no objections to the agenda, if you object to the adopting the agenda, raise your hand, but otherwise, if there are no objections, we'll move forward. So yeah, I think there are some folks, okay, if there's a chat, if anyone knows, if you want to get to the chat, you know, just to, it kind of shares how to a few of the things, how to raise your hand, those types of things. So, you know, go to the chat and ask questions if you do have questions, everyone. Okay, good.
Looks like Carlina is here.
Okay, and I don't see it. I can't see everyone if they're raising their hand or not. Jesus, so can you?
Sure. It looks like Carlina has her hand raised. Let's find her. Carlina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi,
Hey.
everyone. Good
Hi.
evening. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
I think this is so important. I know that it's a little unconventional. It might be weird, but I think us being together, even virtually, is really, really good for us. And I just want to thank you for having me. What do I get, like 2 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, 2 tops.
Quick.
I
Okay,
don't-
great. So thank you everyone for coming together. We have been doing a lot of work in my office, trying to be as proactive as possible. We have dozens of volunteers who have signed up with our office to make calls. Just last week, we called well over 1,000 people. We're starting with our elderly, people with physical limitations, people that we know might need extra assistance. So if you are interested in volunteering, you could contact us at District 2 at council.nyc.gov. So to give you kind of a quick update, there's a couple things that have happened recently, including the passing of the state budget. You might get a state representative at your meeting to kind of explain what went down. But what we're seeing are serious cuts to some of our most critical programs. So as we move forward as a council, we're going to make sure that we're focusing on the safety net. That's food, healthcare, housing, education, making sure, of course, that our transportation system is running, and then looking to move forward to a speedy recovery to support our small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I also include our not-for-profits, who are very dependent on revenue generating sorts of mechanisms. So we're hoping to take care of the most vulnerable, making sure that we're supporting our frontline healthcare staff. I also cheered. Thank you, Molly. I know you're a little high up near Hospital Row, but
Yep.
it really is inspiring. So our hospital system is overwhelmed, plain and simple, working as one system. It's more theory than practice right now. They really are trying to come together. And when I speak about health in hospitals, which is the public system, which is taking care of some of our own family and friends right now. And then of course, working with New York Presby and NYU Langone and the Montefiores of the city. So they're trying to figure out how to focus on patient transfers, supply sharing logistics. We're trying to be helpful with that, but also making sure that we're looking at alternative care sites. You've probably heard of sites popping up all over the city, whether it's Javits, whether it's the Comfort, or whether it's former hospitals like in Brooklyn, like in St. Mary's, or just really being able to identify where we could set up these field hospitals. Some of you have emailed me suggestions. I, of course, have forwarded that to OEM and our city and state officials. And then some of you have been incredible in leading us to also supplies. So I think, you know, one thing I know about New York, you know, I'm a lifelong New Yorker, is that we really do come together when times are tight and when things are tough. And I'm very inspired. I know that, you know, you probably have a ton of questions. I really encourage you to reach out to me. I'm going to do a Facebook Live today at 7:30. I'm answering a ton of questions. I did this last week. It was pretty successful. On small business support, food, our parks and gardens, our education system, and some of the challenges that students are having with technology, especially those with individual education plans, and just really making sure that we're looking at this not just as a triage, but then overall holistically as a healing process. It's a public health crisis, it's an economic crisis. And of course, we have to think about the mental trauma that our students, our families, and our healthcare workers will have. So I know we've been on tons of Zooms and tons of conference calls. This is kind of our life right now, but I just want you all to know that if there's something that you need from me, please know that I am at your service. My staff is working incredibly hard. They're amazing. And of course, you can always pick up the phone, text me, or let me know. This is kind of how we're working right now. And we have a number of issues that we're really pushing forward in the budget to make sure that we're taking care of people. And as soon as the New York City Council is kind of back up and running, we haven't really had any hearings yet, but we'll be getting that infrastructure set up soon. So stay tuned.
Great. Thank you, Carlina. I really appreciate it. So Councilmember Carlina, I know Rivera, I know you're going to another town hall, and I think Brad may be on the same town hall. Okay, so let's move forward. And I'm sorry we didn't do the first roll call. We'll do that next. But Senator Hoylman.
Hi, good to see you.
Hi.
Thanks for having me, Molly. Yeah, it's a crazy time, and Carlina's right. It's all hands on deck in my office, and Sam Vasquez is here joining us. He's done a tremendous job. My team, just to take one anecdote, you know, they are 24/7 now with emails and telephone calls and constituent outreach. It involves the things, Molly, that you'd never think about, like reaching out to the FDA to try to get face masks cleared on the Mexican border that had been shipped to China and were on their way to New York. You know, or constituents who are stuck in Thailand and can't access the state, New York State of Health website because it doesn't work outside of apparently the United States, and have to update their health insurance because they can't get back to New York before June because of this pandemic. I mean, there are just so many wild stories. But I wanted just to zero in on a few issues. One, in our report, you're going to see some top line resources, our resource guide. The state, you know, I think everyone, whether you love him or hate him, you got to say that Governor Cuomo has been an amazing, amazing leader during this. And, you know, he's made a lot of fans, I think, in our district for his decisiveness. And his team has been so phenomenal. They have these daily calls for state and federal officials. And if you have a particular issue, and Sam knows this, you should raise it with our office because we can go directly to the governor and on these calls and get an answer pretty quickly. So that's incredibly helpful. But our resource guide is there. Our volunteer guide is there. Like Carlina, we've been recruiting volunteers for everything from delivering meals to making phone calls. We have a couple of hundred people doing that. It's been extremely, I think, successful from a local standpoint. We've been delivering face masks. One of our Senate constituents had procured hundreds of thousands of face masks back in January because she's from Hong Kong originally, although she lives in Chelsea, and knew what the United States was going to face. So she bought all these face masks, and we've been distributing them to, we distributed 17,000 earlier this week to Bellevue, and we distributed, you know, about that same number to Ryan Chelsea Clinton Health Center the previous week. So if you know of any local community organization that needs face masks, these are surgical masks, not the N95s, but let us know, and we can probably help you hook you up with some face masks. You should reach out to our office on unemployment insurance. Of course, that's a state issue, but we know so many New Yorkers are filing. The lines are very long online. This website has been crashing, but we can try to help you using our connections to get around some of those lines. So let neighbors, and if you yourself need help, let us know. In terms of the budget, it was $177 billion. I would say, Molly, $177 billion worth of bad news, as Carlina alluded to. Some very deep cuts across the board. The revenue just doesn't exist. $7 billion worth of revenue evaporated, it seems like, overnight. And we're dealing with that, and the city's going to be doing the same thing. That said, while our local hospitals in the Senate district were looking at $60 million worth of cuts, we fought back those cuts by the tune of $200 million. So they won't be that deep, and they won't be happening anytime soon, which is good news. We were able to keep education funding. Education funding, foundation aid is the same level as last year. That's not an increase and that's a cut, but it's not as bad as it might have been otherwise. And we were able to put some money into things like unemployment insurance and paid family leave and paid sick leave, as well as a new lifeline worth $3 billion to the MTA. You know, I rode the subway to the train station up to Albany to vote last week, and it's a ghost town, and MTA revenues are down like, you know, by over 80%. The ridership is way down on buses and trains. And so the state's got to step up, and that's what we're trying to do. Wanted to also let you know that there were a few bright spots in the budget, notwithstanding all the gloom and doom. We passed legislation to ban flavored e-cigarettes, which is very important given the youth who have become addicted to nicotine. Over half of high school students have tried e-cigarettes, but now, given COVID and respiratory ailments, it's more important than ever. We banned those. That was a bill I sponsored with Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal. We protected domestic abuse survivors by allowing cops, if cops go into a home where there's a gun and it's a domestic dispute, they can procure that weapon and keep it for 48 hours. That cooling off period is so key, because that's often when women, mostly women, get injured or killed by firearms during domestic disputes. And third, I think many of you know, have been fighting for the right to have children through surrogacy in the state of New York. New York is one of only 3 states in the country that has not allowed that to happen. We finally got that bill passed in the budget. So it's a bright spot. You know, we'll have the strongest protections for surrogates and donors and intended parents like myself who want to have children through surrogacy, but we'll also allow it to happen in a regulated fashion. My husband and I had to travel 3,000 miles to have our 2 children through surrogacy. Now, after this pandemic is over, God willing, we'll be able to do that in our home state. And then finally, just today, and Sam knows this, there was an executive order by Governor Cuomo to establish a moratorium on evictions for tenants who have lost their job through COVID-19. That eviction moratorium is great, but what happens is that it ends on June 18th. And at that point, the landlord, in theory, could have been filing paper eviction notices to the tenant and thrown the tenant out on June 19th. And we can't let that happen. So the bill that we introduced today with Senator Krueger is called the New York State Tenant Safe Harbor Act, and gives tenants 6 months to get on their feet, to get healthy, to get reemployed, and then you know, they can confront the issue of eviction if they haven't paid their rent. But we really feel that the private sector needs to give our tenants a little bit of lead time during this stressful moment for us all. You know, I've been working really closely with Carlina, Harvey, Dan Cord, Assembly Member Seawright, and the borough president, and Assemblymember Gottfried and Senator Krueger on so many issues. So I just really am grateful for their support, along with Congressman Adler and Congresswoman Maloney. We're going to get through this. I think we're going to come out of this, Molly, stronger than ever. I really believe it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. Really appreciate your work. Thank you so much. Yay. Okay, so I think Jim Collins had a question for you, Senator.
Hi,
Yeah,
Senator.
While you're asking, I'm going to.
Wait, oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. Oh, okay, you're gonna take yourself off mute. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
I'm just wondering whether or not the Assembly and the Senate are going to come back for a second look at the budget once all of this COVID-19 is resolved.
We have to. In the Senate, we passed special rules to allow us to operate remotely.
Mhm.
We had to physically go to Albany because the 157-year-old Senate rules never contemplated a pandemic, although they should have, given.
Not 157 years ago, yeah.
Right,
absolutely.
exactly. But For example, to take one issue, Jim, is the Child Victims Act, which you know that I have fought for, to allow adult survivors of child sexual abuse 1 year to file claims against their abusers or the institutions that may have facilitated that abuse.
Mhm.
Well, the individuals who
expires.
have these claims- yeah, well, it expires in August, and now the Office of Court Administration has basically ceased any filings. So those survivors are being like basically shortchanged 6 months.
But in terms of fiscal matters,
Yes,
taxes, revenues,
all of that.
expenditures, all of that will also be addressed in the second pass on the budget.
I sure hope so. You know, this is hard. The revenue raising mantra is being beaten, you know, by members like me and Harvey. But we and of course Senator Krueger. But we're going to need more time to get that across the finish line. You know, FDR raised taxes in 1935, the height of the Depression. Mike Bloomberg did it during the recession. He raised property taxes by 25%. We don't have the revenue to address these issues if we don't get it from the federal government. Now, I get the governor's play, which is get as much revenue from the feds, who can basically print money, and hopefully keep our hospitals and other essential services afloat. But we cannot be cutting these essential, you know, elements of our society at this point in time. So yes, we will, I hope, go back remotely and continue to legislate and fight for revenue that we need to support our local communities. And let me just say a word about Louise Dankberg. I know people love her and cherish her. I do as well. You know, we're all praying for Louise. And this is one example of how insidious this pandemic is. The fact that we can't reach out to her, the fact that her family can't reach out to her. But you know, I just want everyone to know that I'm thinking of her every day and have spoken to Jay and only wish the best for her.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, I wasn't aware of Louise. We do have someone else on the board that is her husband's at NYU now and on a ventilator. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear about Louise. That's sad. I think we're going to move it along. We have Representative Maloney on the phone. Congresswoman, is that right?
1 second.
Can you hear me? What? Can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, can you hear me?
yes, we can. Hello.
Okay, great. All this new technology we have to get used to. Thank you so much, Molly. And I wish we were at a usual Community Board 6 meeting all together, but this is the best we can do with these trying times. Before I start, I just want to say that I hope everyone on the call is safe at home and you're practicing all the distancing and washing your hands to keep yourself safe. I do want to talk about what Congress has been doing. We've had 3 bills that have been major bills to address the crisis. I call them disaster relief packages because it really is a disaster we're reacting to. The last one that we voted on last Friday, the so-called CARES Act, was the largest in history. It pumped $2.2 trillion, as in T, into our economy. And it provided billions in funding for our hospitals and efforts to arrest the economy, a direct grant to our governor of over $7 billion, to our mayor of over $7 billion. $40 billion is flowing to the state, but it's primarily going into the hands of citizens, into the hands of people to help them get through this crisis. I do want to note a proposal that I fought very hard for, that I thought was important, that I'll continue fighting for. I would say we were united as House Democrats for a proposal that included rent relief provisions for residential and commercial leases. Tragically, these did not make it into the final bill. I will continue to fight to include them in the subsequent stimulus packages we're going to need to pass. And I'm very supportive of my colleagues in state government who are working to provide this relief on the local level. But the bill did have a lot of very important provisions that are going to help residents and small businesses. And I want to outline 3 of the top ones. We will be distributing rebates to all Americans who earned under $99,000 and households which earned under 190,000 based on your 2019 or 2018 tax files. All individuals under 75,000 and households under 190 will receive individuals $1,200, $2,400 for joint filers, plus $500 for each child under 17. You do not need to do anything to receive this rebate. If you filed your 2018 and 2019 taxes, they have got the printing presses rolling. They are doing over 50,000 checks a day, and they're just going through them and trying to get them into your hands as fast as possible. Also, this Social Security and Social Security disability insurance, they are working with the IRS to make sure that they get their rebate, that you get your checks. And for other non-filers, you're eligible, but may not need to take additional steps. The IRS will be doing outreach, and you can contact my office with absolutely any questions. We are all working from our homes, but you can call my office. We're checking it, getting back to constituents and helping you. I've never worked harder. My staff has never worked harder. The bill also, it has, over on the Social Security, it has the unemployment deal going, and you apply at your state unemployment office, and there's a $600 a week additional money coming from the federal government to help through this situation. And we are also expanding our Paycheck Protection Program to include sole proprietors, independent contractors. For the first time, we covered the gig economy. Those are people that are, artists and other workers, self-employed workers. They're all eligible to apply for unemployment for the first time under this new program that we have, and also are covered on what has proven to be probably the most popular program is something called the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a loan program, but really it's a grant program after 2 months if you do exactly what they want, and it's a new loan program for businesses with less than 500 employees. I got to tell you, I think this bill was written for our district. We have more small businesses on a block than most small towns have. So they're all really, really closed and having tremendous problems. We have more restaurants. We have more hotels, small ones, and other of these small businesses. It has crashed our banks. I talked to Brian. I called all the banks. I was surprised. Brian Moynihan, head of Bank of America, called me back. They said in one day, over 112,000 applicants came in to Bank of America. That's just in one day. And the SBA tells me that last year, the total amount of loans under the SBA was 60,000. So this is a program that SBA lenders, the big banks, they almost can't handle them. So many people are coming in, and the desire is so great. The desire is so great that on Thursday we're planning. Of course, you never know what's going to happen in Congress. They plan things and then it changes all the time. But we're planning to vote for an additional $200 billion to go into this program because the demand has been so great, and trying to push it out to other small vendors like PayPal and Quicken Loans and others, because so many people are trying to get this. Now, what's so interesting about it is that it's 100% federally guaranteed, so that this loan, if you use it like it's supposed to be, that 75% of the money goes to pay your employees that have been let go and that you want to come back to work. 25% can go for other expenses of the small business, such as, the rent and the utilities and other things. So it is really so popular that we can't even process all that are trying to get into this. And there is also a one that can help our not-for-profit industry. It's called the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. And again, it comes through the SBA for businesses and private nonprofits. These can go up. The smaller one, the Paycheck Protection one, can go up to 10 million. This one can go up to, wait a minute, 10,000. Wait a minute. This is going to 2 million. The other one can go to $10,000. The smaller one is 10,000. I'm getting all these money things confused in my head, but this $2 million one can go as long as 30 years with payments and interest deferments of up to 4 years. So that's a very good deal to keep them going. One unique aspect is a grant. The loans come with a $10,000 emergency advance grant that does not need to be repaid under any circumstances. And that's sort of a bridge loan to help you go forward. And as the chair of the Oversight Committee, I helped push FEMA to issue the Major Disaster Declaration of New York. The governor was pushing for it. He asked me to push for it too, and I asked for it in one of our hearings. And within 6 hours, the president had made that declaration, which has brought in a strike force from FEMA, all kinds of federal help, the National Guard, additional monies and additional helps, particularly for our hospitals. I also called for a nationwide moratorium on foreclosures and evictions on federally backed and GSE mortgages. And the next day, the administration complied and granted that. We're working hard in so many ways, but this week I also drafted 2 bills that are very important that we'll file the minute we go back in session. One of my bills was the so-called TRIA, the Anti-Terrorism Risk Insurance bill. This was, I think, the most important economic development bill for New York after 9/11. And we couldn't get loans anywhere because of the fact we were a target for terrorism, and it allowed loans to take place. The only place we could get loans were from Lloyd's of London. I mean, if you had a hot dog stand, you couldn't get a loan. So I patterned an anti-pandemic bill, anti-pandemic reinsurance bill for insurance for future pandemics. Many businesses were calling and asking for it from our district, so I did that. We have been working very hard to protect our first responders. In this case, it's nurses and doctors, emergency personnel, everyone working in our hospitals. So many of them are sick, so they need reinforcements. So I did a bill today to forgive the debt of doctors and nurses, emergency practitioners, and others if they come in and work on the front line in this pandemic and help out. Our hospitals are telling me at first it was we couldn't get enough protective equipment, the masks, the gowns, the face coverings and feet coverings that they need to protect themselves. But now they're telling me their biggest problem is they don't even have the personnel because so many people are out sick. I have one hospital that has over 250 people on the front line, meaning doctors and nurses who are out sick. So I think that bill would do a lot to help address this problem. I want to end saying that our work is not over. We are working on a 4th bill. The first 3 have been directly to help people, our hospitals, to help with the medical emergency that we're confronting. And I can name so many people that you know that are in the hospital. I call so many people to just check on them, and they tell me they're in the emergency unit. So my heart breaks for Louise and everybody else that are our good friends that are fighting this terrible virus. But we are having another bill that we're working on, and I'd love to hear your suggestions of what you need. What are the emergencies now that we need to confront to put into that bill? My favorite part of the day is at 7 o'clock. Like Molly, I never miss it. I'm hanging out my window and beating on my pan, and it brings tears to my eyes to see the neighborhood so unified and determined, and to combat this and to support our first responders and nurses and doctors when they change their shifts, and always through the day, they're in our prayers. I'm here to work for you. I'm a phone call away. I do send out a daily email, both from my campaign and from my office, with all the numbers. We lost 700 people last night, the highest yet that we've confronted in this crisis. I hope it's the tip of the tip of it, and that we start going down. But in any event, I'm here to work with you and help you in any way. And thank you, Molly, for including me, and what an honor it is for me to work with the other electeds that have the honor of working in a Community Board 6 area. It's one of the most active and effective community boards in the whole city.
Well,
And
thank you, Carolyn. Oh, sorry to cut you off. We have a couple
No,
of
I'm-
questions for you, and I know
Sure.
this is such hard work, and it's just been a tough time for everybody. And when you said that it brought tears to your eyes, when I go out the window every night, I kind of keep thinking, don't cry tonight, but every night I tear up because it is really, really moving.
I tear up too. I can't
Yeah.
help it. It's so moving. So
Let's see.
moving.
So we have, I'm sorry, Pam had a question, or wait, let me go back to who had questions.
Okay, we've
Pam
unmuted
and then
Pam.
Larry. Okay, Pam Vassal.
Yes. So good evening to you. And my question is the following. What can you tell us about the date of the primary and absentee ballots?
Okay, the date of the primary is, what a wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. The date of the primary is June 23rd. And right now, I don't know what's going to happen. As many of you know, we had a convention in July, but now it's put off till the end of August. And right now they're saying that we will be having this primary. We have early voting now, so that will help with having a lot of congestion on election day voting, because people don't want to be exposed during this crisis. My office will be doing mailings on early voting. You can get an absentee ballot from the Board of Elections. You can get an absentee ballot at the post office, and you can get an absentee ballot if you call my office and ask for it. But I have a very tough primary. I have 3 people running against me. One was the same guy who ran last year. So I don't know what he's done in between, but I don't know of any work on the community board or on the block association or anything. So I have a serious primary, and they're running a negative campaign. So I would appreciate any help, so that I love my job. I love working for you, and I get better at it every year. I think all of us get better at our work as you do it. And I'm very proud of having passed this year, billions for our first responders. I'm a dedicated person. I worked on that bill 18 years. We finally passed it and got permanent health care and compensation for our first responders. And it breaks my heart when I see our first responders now, our nurses and doctors, so dedicated, and in many cases going in without the protective gear that they need to protect their own health. So I'm concerned about taking care of them, and we may have face the same type of challenge that we had with the first responders from 9/11 to get them the health care that may come uniquely from having suffered from the coronavirus. Thank you for the
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. And then
got
Larry,
please.
Larry will be brief, and Larry, then we're going to move on.
Okay.
Larry, ask your question, please.
He's muted.
Okay,
There he is. Nope. Still muted.
so hold on. It's sticking.
Nope. We can't hear you, Larry.
1 second.
Maybe
Now, Larry.
Thank you, Congressman Maloney. My question relates to the small business relief legislation and how it applies to those businesses which have no paid employees, such as a sole proprietorship. I haven't been able to get any information about that. Is there any provision for those types of small businesses?
Well, for the PPP, the purpose of that program was we're trying to get money into the economy and into people's hands, because the economy has come to a standstill. So people have no way of applying and getting it. As a sole proprietor, you can apply for yourself. and get yourself covered. Of course, you know, it's only one person. It would be your salary. I have a staff assistant who works on this, Shelby Garner, in my office. Can you call my office? And it's my understanding you can apply and you will be covered. I will personally check on it and work with you to make sure the paperwork is done. Call Shelby Garner and get him going on it with it, and I will weigh in and help process it. You have to first fill out a form, an SBA application form at your bank. Usually it's the bank that you keep your account in. A lot of banks are not even, because they're overwhelmed with people coming in, they're not even processing them unless you have an account with them. But I believe, it's my understanding, you are covered, and it would cover your salary and other business expenses. Only 25% can go for rent and utilities and other business expenses. The other 75% has to go for salary. Okay?
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, Molly, I always love
Well,
listening to your emails and appreciate your leadership. You're the heart of the.
we'll see you on the other side. Thanks, Carol. Okay, so I think she was muted. All right, so we do have a few people that need to be on the town hall, and I'm not sure. Assembly member Epstein is here, and then we also have Keith, council member Powers, that both I think have to go to other meetings next too. So I'll let Harvey go, and then we'll do Keith.
Thank you, Molly.
Hi.
So thank you, Keith, for letting me go. Hope you have a few more minutes after I go. And thank you, Community Board 6, for continuing to do these meetings. I think it's really important to stay engaged and get people on the same table. I just wanted to follow up with Brad was saying around the budget, because I do think there are, there were some bright spots, as Brad pointed out, and there was really dark spots, and we've seen that play out already with the mayors today saying they're cutting all summer youth programs. So 75,000 New Yorkers, young people, won't have money for the summer, won't have things to do, won't have employment opportunities. And so I think that's probably a part of what's going on, and not focusing on new revenue. And we have so many opportunities for new revenue. The Budget Justice Coalition, I think Brad alluded to, we had 10 different budget bills, a bunch of ideas that I had around raising mezzanine debt tax or taxes on the wealthy, stock transfer tax, issued after issued luxury goods tax, and we just didn't do any of it. But the question was, do we have another shot at it? What we did in this budget is to have quarterly updates, and then if we needed to do additional cuts, the governor would propose cuts, and then we could propose counter. So I think we will have opportunities another 3 times this year to say, in response, on July 1 date, October 1 date, and at the end of the year, to say, hey, we need to not cut, and we need to propose new revenue. And I think, it is a historic moment for us, and we hopefully will never have to go through something like this again. But I do think it's critical that we focus on revenue, and that's the only path forward. If we do not, and we just continue to cut, it is going to deepen the darkness that we're in this economy, and it will take us longer to get out of. So hopefully we'll do that. There was a question around repairs and mold violations. Housing court is closed, but for emergency issues, illegal lockouts, mold, repair issues, people can still file cases. If they need help, they can reach out to any of our offices. And I think the question about whether we suspend rent or cancel rent are really important. And it's not just a vague difference, a really big difference. If we cancel people's rents for 90 days, that will be a huge savings for people, because they won't be able to pay rent. So some landlords will suffer. We're going to have to figure out how we put a little money aside to fix them. Brad talked about a bill that he's sponsored and I'm a co-sponsor of in the Assembly, which says, well, even if we can't cancel the rent, which is what the primary purpose might be to move forward, can we ensure that people can't get evicted for not paying these 3 months of rent? And that might be a nice fallback position. I think it's really important to have these conversations. So I do think we are in a fundamentally different time than we've been in before, and I hope together we can come out of it. I'm happy to take a question or two about the budget. Just overall, budget on the economy side is bad on bail reform. I know Brad and I are really upset with the rollback, and I voted against those bills. And the other bright spot, I think, will be this on the climate issue around banning fracking, most of styrofoam, and doing a environmental bond act, which will hopefully deal with the long-term issues of the environmental problems that we're having.
Yeah.
And Molly, if you want me to do a quick question or two, I'm happy to do it.
Do anyone have questions? I don't see any questions, Harvey. Thank you so much. I know you're out there. You guys are all working so hard, and I appreciate it all. We all do. So
I appreciate you giving us time to talk, and everyone be safe out there and social distance, and don't go out much if you can. I really think people need to stay home over the next week to take care of themselves.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening. And City Council Member Powers, and then Kalos is on. Oh, there. I'm sorry, Ben. I didn't mention you, but I'll do Keith, and then we'll have Ben. Hi.
Thank you. Thanks, Molly. Well, first of all, nice to see everybody. I miss all of you so much, and it really is a reminder of how much we all really rely on each other and how nice it is to see people. But it's nice to see everybody. It's also nice to see where all you live. I now get a more of a flavor of our separate lives here. But I do look forward to a moment where we all get to convene together and you can yell bundle at me as I get up to give my speech. But I'm not going to take too much time because you guys do have a long agenda and I know there's much on it. Ben and I just did a town hall with the Department of Health to get a lot of questions answered. If you couldn't make that, we'll make sure you can get some of the notes or some of their questions answered as well. I just want to talk about that we've been getting a lot of incoming questions in my office about unemployment and not being able to get through to unemployment, or specific questions about it, about being a small business owner and how they can take advantage of SBA or SBS programs. We've been hearing from renters asking, how do I go to and talk to my landlord about 3 months rent or other issues? We've been talking to people about and other rent and landlord issues. We've been talking to property owners about mortgages and property taxes. What I will tell you is, the one thing I want to say is that so much is happening in real time, unlike other things that we have in our life. And what is really helpful is that you do reach out to our offices, any of the elected officials, to talk about specific situations that you might be facing, because it's really now that we get to sort of gather these issues and bring them to the administration, whether it's the governor or the mayor, get them addressed. And there's so many unanticipated scenarios and situations that we are facing right now. So my office has really kind of repositioned itself that everybody's working on a specific area. Somebody working on small business and unemployment, somebody working on parks issues and open space and transportation issues, somebody working on health issues and first responders and resource gathering. So you can reach out to us and we'll get you to the right person in my office that's working on a particular area to ask a question or to get you to the right agency. And in some cases, there are these issues people can't get on the phone with the unemployment, and we've been trying to liaise on that. So use our office that way. But all the elected officials, I think, have been doing a great job making sure their offices are equipped and getting information out. And I want to thank all of them for the work they've been doing really in the last couple of weeks to make sure our community is well taken care of. But call us. We are answering the phones, going to cell phones. You can email us. We are on top of emails about your situations and also policy ideas that you feel like need to be attended to or being unattended to. We are collecting those ideas and trying to turn them into ideas that the city or state can use at this moment. I see questions coming in about rents and other issues. So please use our office as much as we can be helpful. I lastly just want to say I am really thinking of all the first responders, all the healthcare workers right now, and some of the people that can't be on this call today because they are attending to their own health issues or family health issues. Please take this very seriously. I know you know this. It is nice for us to get together this way if we can't be together in person, and we'll have to do that for some period of time, maybe potentially months. But the last thing is, if you do want to be a volunteer in any capacity or form, please email my office as well. We have different ways you can be helpful from home. There's a few that let you leave the house to do things like shopping for neighbors, but let's all stick together. And if you could be any help you, or if you just want to say hello, I'm happy to give you a call and chat about issues. But I'll leave it at that to be respectful of everybody's time. And thanks so much for
Thank you,
letting me be
Keith.
part of your meeting tonight. Thanks.
We have a couple questions. Ann Seligman and then Jim, and then we'll move the agenda. Ann?
Yeah, hi, Keith, thanks.
Hi,
I
Ann.
love it if you could put the email address for where I have like 3 of them for you.
Okay.
But maybe if you can just put it in the chat or something, so that we know where we can reach out to you to reach out to others.
Yes, absolutely. I'm doing that right now.
I'd like to add my vote of support for the grocery store workers too, in terms of thank yous. But my question really was about rent. I had heard of a proposal to allow people to use security deposits for a month's rent, and I wondered if that's going anywhere.
Sure, it's a great question. So I had proposed with some other folks, and I know this is things others have supported, that as we approached April, that perhaps there was a way to unlock the security deposit as a way for those who are affected by coronavirus to be able to pay their next month's rent, with the logic that the person's already paid it. It's money that's already been allocated in some fashion or form to the landlord, and then the landlord has access to it. There's obviously some perils in doing that, like the purpose of security deposit is to help prevent against damage or vacancy to the apartment. So there was some hesitancy about using it. We also looked at some services that are out there right now that let people pay like kind of more of like an insurance sort of method on security deposit as a low cost method to replace it. So I had put out a proposal that would let people do that. It was not exactly the way I proposed, but in Stuyvesant Town, they did create a renters assistance program for people affected by coronavirus. One of the options is to allocate your security deposit as your next month's rent. There's some other ways you can also enter and take advantage of different like other things like deferring your rent. It's not a bad model. I think we've all identified there's more to do. At the state level, the mayor actually recently drafted a letter to send to the governor on our behalf to say this is something you should look at. But I think ultimately it requires the state to take some action here, and the governor could do it through, I think, an executive order or through legislative means, through the legislature. There hasn't been an update on it yet, I think, from the governor's office, but at the city level also, the mayor is looking at some of the property that the city owns to be able also to allow that. So it's one thing, but there's a lot more things we have to do for renters. That this is just, for me, meant to be a bridge between today and tomorrow for
Right.
people who are unemployed and can't pay the rent.
Great, thanks, and thanks for the newsletter or the
Oh,
email.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Jim Collins?
I just wanted to point out that within the chat section, there apparently are questions coming from attendees, and the officials who are speaking may wish to check on that panel before signing off. I know there was a question here for Senator Hoylman, and there may be another question later on. I see questions here from a Kirk Furek.
Right. No, I think
Okay.
we're gonna move on, and we can follow up with the answers to those questions, Jim.
And anybody can email me and we will respond to them. I have been reading them though. Thank you, Andrew Gross, for the nice words. And we will answer them. Office is here, but you can also email us and we'll do our best to get the questions answered.
All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Keith. All right, take
Thanks.
care. And Ben, Councilmember Kalos is here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this over Zoom. You're absolutely amazing and technologically advanced. As Councilmember Powers mentioned, we just did an East Side Town Hall with the Commissioner Barbeau, where we did Q&A, and we did about 30 to 40 questions grouped into 7 different sections. You can catch up with the borough president and the Barbeau at benkalos.com. Sorry, on Facebook, and we will have it hosted on benkalos.com and YouTube momentarily, but either way, you'll find all the info at benkalos.com. Keith Powers was the sponsor, Garrett Brewer was the sponsor, Carl Maloney was a sponsor, Assembly members Court and Seawright were sponsors, And I'm hoping I haven't left off. We are joined by Speaker Corey Johnson in that. For me, I would just say, and I want to just thank Wilfredo Lopez. He's my rep to CB6. He's absolutely amazing. And so I just wanted to touch base about pandemic, because that's all that anyone's talking about nowadays. We've been very focused on 4 items, which is beds, tests, PPEs, and ventilators. So when it comes to beds, we are working with Mayor de Blasio, and we are opening, I think we've already opened 350 beds in what was an abandoned wing of a health and hospitals building on Roosevelt Island called Kohler. So we've added 350 beds. They are now being used for people to come off the rest of the system to free up ICU beds. And these people are folks who still need critical care but can't be discharged yet. And my hope is that if we need people for coronavirus treatment, that we have this facility that just got built. The other piece is we have a hospital for special surgery in my district, very similar to HJD in what they do. And so I'm happy to work with you on HJD. But what we said is, are you still doing any surgeries? And they're like, we're doing about 20, but we have capacity for 200 beds. So we got those 200 beds. They shared those with New York Presbyterian. So we've added 550 beds in my district alone. So I want to thank folks. We have a website that Wilfredo helps me manage, coronavirus@benkalos.com, where we've asked folks with masks to donate or make or sell, to email. And we've been working with probably 50 to 60 different people on trying to get that done. I even am working with a group called Anime NYC. They do cosplay conventions, and they're getting cosplayers, people who make costumes, to do the face masks. So we're doing a lot of that work and hoping to secure those PPEs. I have the privilege of representing Cornell. I know that NYU is also working on testing. And so one of the issues is that no one's been able to get tests because there's been scarcity. And so I've been working on removing scarcity from our system, whether it's getting the PPEs or the beds. In this case, we're working with researchers. We have a test that can be done in minutes. It uses chemicals. It just changes color. Very similar to another test folks may be familiar with. It hopefully is a lot more accurate than what we see on TV in that way. And so we've been working with the mayor. We've been working with the governor. We've been working, believe it or not, with the White House to get this test available. And we would hope to have 1 million tests available ASAP. It's been available. We've been on track to get it done next week, every week since this pandemic started. So I'm still hopeful, and I'm going to still keep working. And last but not least, the ventilators, however we can get them built, even if it means 3D printing, whatever technology we can use. So I think that's where I'm at in terms of trying to deal with the digital divide that is real. It's been the thing that Gail Brewer and I have been fighting for our entire careers. And we've worked with Spectrum, and they have something called Internet Assist. Anyone who is on free and reduced school lunch or Social Security supplemental income, or SSDI, qualifies for it. It's $14.99 a month if you don't already have broadband and you already aren't a customer. But now anyone who doesn't have broadband, who has a child at home, regardless of income, qualifies for 60 days of free broadband. And we hope that that will be helpful. We've also been focused on how can we help businesses. One of the things that we were looking at as we reached out to the New School, which I think may be in CB6, and their economist, Teresa Garozucci, around 5 different things we could do to help small business, and that's stop commercial evictions, defer property taxes, defer commercial rent payments, defer mortgage payments, and guarantee jobs and healthcare for workers. A lot of those ideas were all out there in the mix, and our Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, has done a great job in getting a lot done in our federal stimulus. And so we're doing whatever we can to keep those businesses open. And we also wanted to say thank you to the folks on the front line. We broke during our town hall today at 7 o'clock to do the applause. My district erupts with that noise, and it is amazing. It is beautiful. It is a silver lining to this pandemic. But I want to thank a lot of the people. We thank them in Labor Press in an op-ed, but it's not just our healthcare workers, it's our teachers and food workers who are making foods available at 100 enrichment centers, our utility workers who are keeping the power and the internet up, restaurant workers, and people working in supermarkets who are frankly getting paid minimum wage and not much else. We've been doing a lot on Zoom. We've had quite a number of people on our first Friday. We just had several hundred people for the town hall, and we're just here as a resource however we can help. And I just want to thank everyone on this board for your service.
Great, thank you, Ben. And I don't know if there are questions. I don't see any coming through. So, all right, well, we know where to find you. Thank you so much for all the work. It's a great update. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we do have other folks on the line from the electeds office, so I'll just move through this and we'll do the roll call after. We're doing this a little out of order tonight. So I'm not sure who, if anyone wants to speak. A few folks wanted to waive their reports. Senator Kruger's office, Madeline, said she would waive, and Assemblymember Godfrey Brees is on the call, but he is waiving his report. I don't know if Mayor de Blasio's, is Andrew on the call? I'm not
Yes,
seeing.
I believe he is,
Do you have him to?
or at least he was.
And
All
if
right,
not,
we'll come back to him if he's still
we
here.
could go Michael Stinson from Comptroller Stringer's office. Michael, are you? Oh, there, I see Michael.
I'm here. I'm
Hey,
here.
Michael.
I'll
Hi.
just be very brief. I will waive most of my report. I just want to let you guys know that we've released a report last week. It's a comprehensive demographics profile of New York City's essential frontline workers in public transit, healthcare, childcare, grocery, pharmacy, sanitation, janitors, utilities, etc. And as part of the report, we've called for guaranteed healthcare, accessible and local childcare, and priority access to COVID-19 testing for all frontline workers. We called for deep cleaning subsidies, supplies, and staffing for small businesses and nonprofits. I'm sorry, my 3-month-old is about to have a meltdown right now. So I'll send that over to you in the comments here because he's going to start screaming. I don't want you guys
You're
to.
not going to show us, you're not going to bring him in the shot? No, okay.
I will for the next one, I promise.
Okay, please.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. And then Rebecca from Assemblymember Quartz. Do we have Rebecca on the line?
Hi.
Oh, yay. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, from Assemblymember Dan Quartz office. On behalf of the Assemblymember and our entire office, we hope that everyone is safe and healthy, and we wish everyone the strength to get through these tough times. We have been quite busy over the past few weeks, but I will mention just a few things to keep my report brief. First, as you all know, the state budget was passed last week, and as Senator Hoylman and Assemblymember Epstein have said, it was a very untraditional process. And after reviewing the budget as a whole, it did bring some positives to the state budget, such as banning styrofoam or polystyrene products and a few more other things. But as a whole, the Assembly member voted no on the state budget. He was not very fond of cuts to Medicaid, especially during a time of a crisis, no full funding for our public schools, and especially not the time to roll back on bail reform, putting more people who can be eligible for bail holding in prison. It is a very dangerous time right now for people to be, especially in Rikers Island, very unsafe health conditions there. So we were upset about that, but of course we have the opportunity to come back to session and fix these issues in the budget as the months roll along. And our main concerns should be right now the safety and health of every citizen. And unfortunately, this budget did sort of the opposite, but we plan and we hope that we could fix these all in the near future. And one other point that a lot of people have been saying about is unemployment. If you are struggling with trying to get through, such as to a phone representative or having issues with the online application, please reach out to our office and we can pass on your contact information to the Department of Labor, who will then forward it to the Unemployment Insurance Office. We do encourage you, while you are waiting for somebody to call you back, just to keep trying. So just keep doing that as you keep going. And I can assure you that the Assembly member is trying to find a way to fix this problem so that people will not experience this again in the near future. And of course, if anyone has any questions, concerns, or needs help with anything, please give us a call or an email. and we can try to help you in the best way that we can. I hope to see you all in person in the near future. And thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thanks, Rebecca. All right, and then we have Kevin Jean-Baptiste from the DA's office. Is Kevin on the call?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm
Hi.
here.
Great, hi.
Hi, I hope everyone is doing well. I just wanted to give a really quick, brief report and just just let folks know what the district attorney has been up to during this difficult time. So, of course, with anything that happens, there's usually scams that comes out of them. So, we have been screening and seeing COVID-19 scams, and we've launched an email line that I'll write in the chat a little bit later that folks can write an email over to if they have gotten any of these calls. So essentially what happens is that people are calling someone's line and they're asking for personal identifying information to check if you're eligible for an experimental drug, sort of like a vaccine or anything like that. Those calls are usually scammed, and those complaints should be forwarded to our hotline, which is it's fraudcomplaints@dany.nyc.gov. I'll also, again, rewrite that email into the chat section. I know also that folks are being quarantined at home, which raises some concerns for people that have domestic violence issues. Our entire witness aid services unit is working remotely. They're still making referral services over the phone, still speaking and counseling with a lot of the victims. And I just wanted to share our domestic violence hotline. I'll include that in the chat as well. And the number there is 212-335-4308. Secondly, second to last, Governor Cuomo, as we know, announced the suspension of non-essential construction, and the community should report all illegal construction by either calling 311, or we have a WhatsApp hotline, which we established during our construction task force, which allowed folks and workers to be able to just text a complaint to the WhatsApp hotline. I'll also include that as well. That phone number is 646-712-0298. And lastly, I just wanted to provide some information regarding the releasing of inmates at Rikers Island. We worked with the mayor's office to provide some recommendations. These numbers were as of March 31st, but I do believe it may have gone up very slightly, but our office consented to the release of 259 individuals who were incarcerated at Rikers Island who did not present a clear threat to public safety. The challenge with that is notifying sort of the victims that people are being released, and it's just to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the prisons at the moment. And that's all of the updates I have.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for coming on. So when we do have, I think maybe the mayor's office is Andrew is coming back, unless he's back, or are we waiting?
He's not back yet, but
Okay.
he said he'll let us know.
Okay, thank you. And then I know that we do have Joe from the Grand Central Library, but he's waiving his report as well. But I don't know if that, maybe we'd have Joe wave to us, but I don't know where he is. Okay, so I think that's it. Unless anyone else from the electeds wants to speak, maybe raise your hand. I think everyone, we had our actual elected officials on the call tonight. So if we're okay, well, let's move forward. So we'll move into the first roll call, and obviously it's going to be handled a little differently tonight. So Seema will take attendance. She'll say your name, and then if you can, you'll be unmuted and just say present. So I feel like, we can see all of you, so we know where you are. We know where to find you, but let's, so Seema, are you ready? Is Seema?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, everyone, how are you? So I think the way that this will work is that, we'll take attendance by roll call. You'll be unmuted and you'll just answer present when your name is called. And I'm going to be inserting it into a chart. So I apologize if I'm going just a little bit slow the first time around. All right, ready to go. Kyle? I'm just going to say first names in case there's all right.
Here.
Okay. Kyle Asima?
Here, present.
Okay, Martin Barrett,
Here.
Elvie Brito? Elvie? No. Joan Berenbaum?
Present.
Matt Bondi?
Present.
Claire Brennan? Jim
Happy to be
Collins?
here.
Here.
Dan Devine? No. Beatrice?
Present.
Thank you. Jeannie D'Onofrio?
Here, here.
Richard Eggers?
Here.
Andrew Gross?
Here.
Andrew, are you here? I'm sorry.
Yep. Right here.
Okay, got you. Adam Hartke? I think I saw Adam. I'm just making sure.
There he is. He's muted.
Okay. Molly Hollister, Paige
Here.
Judge.
Here. Present.
Thank you, Yusuf Khalid. John Keller,
Here.
Kathleen Kelly.
Here.
Thank you. Abigail Kruzmark, Anton Malner.
Present.
Anton, I think I saw you, correct?
Yes, here.
Kavita Matthew, Sandra McKee,
Here. Present.
Wells Magali,
Present.
Richard Mintz,
Here.
Karen Moore. Karen, are you here?
I think we need to remute some of these.
Someone has their TV on in the background. Maybe they can mute the TV.
Philip Napolitano, Rajesh Nair. I think I saw Raj. Kevin O'Keefe,
Here.
Reshma Patel,
Here.
Matt Roberts. Okay, Jean Santoro,
Yep.
Frank Scala. Okay, Lawrence Scheyer,
Here, here.
Ann Seligman, Lou
Here.
Sapristi,
Yo.
Sandro Sherrod,
Here.
Letty Simon,
Here.
Susan Steinberg,
Here.
Mark Thompson, I saw him.
Here.
Karen Vanderdunk, I saw Karen. Brian,
Present.
thank you. Pamela Vassell, Ronnie
Here.
White. All right, Claude Winfield.
Present.
And we have reached quorum.
Okay, I'm muting everyone again.
Okay. Members of the public that would like to speak. I know we had some people on the Q&A.
No one submitted a request for members of the public.
Okay, and I wasn't even able to say that little spiel, but for future, this is our first time. I think we're doing pretty good for our first time. Don't you all agree? Say yes.
Yes. They all say yes.
Okay. The next item, we'll move into business session, and the adoption of last month's March was it March? No,
February.
March. February's, yeah, full board minutes. Wow. If there's an objection, raise your hand. And seeing none, the minutes are approved. And so my report will be 5 seconds. I just wanted to say happy Passover to everyone that's celebrating tomorrow, and to be sure to give if you can, or volunteer if you can. I'm going to give blood next week. I know some people don't like doing that, but that's my thing. I have really good veins, so I give blood. So, but if you can help out, people do need help. Even if we have to do it from our homes, there's things we can do. Another bright spot in all this is we do have some open new bike lanes, or kind of faux bike lanes. So maybe I'm stealing Sandy's thunder, but Second Avenue now has some barricades up, and there's a protected bike lane from 42nd to 34th Street on Second Avenue. So that's kind of cool. That's all. And I did mention there is someone in our board, and I didn't ask her if it was okay to share, but there is somebody that is her husband is in the hospital now on a ventilator, and so just you know, when I can share more details, I will. But you know, it's a scary time for a lot of people, so I'll have to, you know, stick together and try to be positive and you know, stay connected. So and that's all I have. I'll move it to Jesus's district manager's report.
Thank you, Molly. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and healthy in the midst of these truly unusual times. For those of you watching at home, welcome. As Molly said, I'm Jesus Perez, CB6 District Manager. A quick announcement, at long last, CB6's new website will go live next week. For those of you who are currently subscribed to our Google Calendar, please note that as of Wednesday, April 15th, that calendar will no longer be updated. So you will have to subscribe to our new calendar on our new website. By popular demand, you'll be able to subscribe to the meetings of specific committees as opposed to having to subscribe to all CB6 meetings in one go. And just to whet your appetite, I will give you a sneak peek of what the website will look like, and that you will be seeing middle of next week. So you'll see more in a few days, so I won't dwell too long on this because I know we've got to get going. But I did want to share a little bit with you. And also, I do want to say that I'd like to end by thanking our CB6 staff, Assistant District Manager Cody Osterman, Community Associate Brendan Berth. I've said it before, and I will say it again till I'm blue in the face. Manhattan CB6 has the best community board staff in the city, out of all the 59 community boards in the city. And while I'm always recognizant of this at a time like this, when it seems like the whole world has been turned upside down, but our agency, all agencies, have to keep functioning without missing a beat. I'm doubly grateful that we have the great staff that we do. That concludes my report, and thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, you guys have done an amazing job in setting this up and the website, and just we're all, you know, doing these, continuing our lives from home, but we've been able to just keep things moving forward. So it's been really nice. So on that, the treasurer's report, Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Good evening, board members and district guests. My report is that OMB's budget summary for our board from April 1st shows that our personal services budget for the year is $233,910. We have a balance of $73,777 with a $160,132 spent or obligated, which keeps us on track for that budget category. Our budget for other than personal services, excluding our rent, is $184,030. This figure contains $110,185 of our retained street fair money, and our remaining budget is $73,845. Our remaining uncommitted balance of this budget category is $38,805 with $35,039 spent or obligated. And finally, as referenced earlier, we have zeroed out our rent allocation and rent obligations. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope, I don't see any hands raised, Brian. Thank you. All right, and then so if Brian, Brian, I see you there. Brian Lafferty from the Borough President's Office.
Hi, good evening. Borough President Brewer wishes to inform everyone that although her 1 Center Street in Northern Manhattan offices remain closed, staff are working from home and accessible by phone and email. Borough President Brewer is finalizing community board appointments. However, the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure time clock is paused due to the coronavirus pandemic. Borough President Brewer was pleased to purchase a Zoom license for each Manhattan community board that enables up to 300 people to participate in virtual meetings. In addition, Borough President Brewer and a coalition of elected officials successfully advocated for bike shops and dry cleaners to be designated as essential businesses so that they may continue to operate. Borough President Brewer also worked to ensure that garment center manufacturers will produce personal protective equipment, including face shields and surgical gowns for health workers. Several Manhattan manufacturers have received contracts. In addition, since March 24th, Fresh Direct has been delivering food to a different NYCHA development each day. And the free meal service that's offered at more than 400 New York City meal hubs has expanded to include adults. No one will be turned away. Pickup times are 7:30 to 11:30 a.m. for families and 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. for adults. And you can find the nearest site by texting food to 877-877. Borough President Brewer is also excited to announce that everyone can now complete the U.S. Census form online, by phone, or through the mail. Among the 5 boroughs, Manhattan is in second place with a response rate of 37.3%. Lastly, the new plastic bag legislation took effect on March 1st. However, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has agreed to not take enforcement action until May 15th. Consequently, you may continue to see plastic bags being used. Please note that the 5-cent fee on paper bags remains in effect since it is a local law. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And I think that when will we hear about reappointments?
So we should hopefully later this month be notifying all appointees and those who are reappointing as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so I feel like we're missing something here, but let's move into committee reports. Oh, and we still have Andrew from the mayor's office who's on a different call, so I think he might be joining. We'll just interject him when we can. So let's move into
Molly, I believe we have a question from Rich Mintz.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rich, for Brian.
Yes, I just want to say very quickly, Brian, please thank the borough president for moving so fast to work with Beta NYC to make these meetings possible. My understanding is that they were legalized on a Friday and they started on a Monday.
My pleasure.
That's great. Thanks, Rich. Okay, so committee reports and resolutions. Brian Van Nieuwenhoven for Ad Hoc Budget Committee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I waived my report.
Thanks, Brian. And then Kyle for BASA, Business Activities and Street Affairs.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. So is there a motion to bundle, or does everyone want to discuss this?
Let's see if anyone, how do we do this? Let's see. So if you have an item that you want to pull out,
seems like if anyone is opposed to bundling, raise your hand through Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
Doesn't look like anyone is.
No one. Okay, thank you. So sorry, I need to cheat and see. I'm not sure now. So all those in favor, or all those, if you're in favor of the items, the resolutions to A, B, C, D, and E for business activities and street affairs, I guess if there are no objections, if there are objections, raise your hand. And see, I can't see the whole board. That's why I'm hesitating. Can you see the whole board?
So if they're bundling, they'll take them as one vote, and SEMA will call a roll call vote for this as a bundle.
Oh, so we have to do the roll call every time. We don't do the raise your hands to object.
No.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so we will, all those in favor, I guess, SEMA, you're on to do a roll call vote in support.
Can we just rule by objection?
Yeah, is that possible?
I know, I feel like that would be.
Yeah.
Because if you're present and there's no objection, then I can just kind of transfer all of those.
Exactly.
All right, everyone is unmuted now. If anyone is opposed, just say that you're opposed.
Or raise your hand.
Otherwise, it'll be assumed that you're in support.
Sorry, Madam Chair, all the board members are not unmuted. I can see
That's
some are still
true.
muted.
Well, I think that if you were opposed, then you could raise your hand. That's how we did it.
Yeah.
We did it earlier for questions, so I feel like that would be appropriate, or for the minutes and for the agenda. So seeing no raised hands, and we have a quorum, the
Motion carries.
five resolutions carry. Okay.
Sounds good. And then I'll just transfer everyone who's present over into the yay, the in favor column.
Okay, great. Thank you, Seema. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right. So the next Parks. Oh, you're on mute.
1 second.
You ready?
Pam.
Yeah, okay. So I just want to say, in the midst of all this horror, that look up at the sky tonight. It's a pink moon and it's a full moon and it's beautiful. And I want to wish everybody continued health. And that's it. And, if anyone hears anything about the police giving out a lot of tickets in the park, just drop me an email. I'm curious to know how that's going to be as the weather is getting nicer. And with that, I'm finished, and I wish everyone a happy Passover and a happy Easter.
Great, thanks, Pam. All right, Sandro Sherrod, Chair for Land Use.
Thank you for unmuting me.
Where are you at right now, by the way?
A secret location.
Some bunker, like it's sound studio.
But I do want to, I want to just take a quick moment and thank everyone who's reached out to me in the various forms of communication. I know it's been very difficult for everyone, both from family and friends being sick, as well as just being cooped up wherever you are. So thank you very much. There's nothing serious to report, but I do want to say that this seems to be working very well, and I do believe we're going to try to do a Zoom meeting later this month so we can do kind of an update for the board on what's happening, what's progressing with these projects, and what might be delayed, and the impact on the schedules of Eastside Coastal Resiliency and other things in our district. End of report.
Okay, thank you, Sandro. Yeah, I think some of those things we'll have to revisit in a serious way, right? All right, Sandy McKee, Chair for Transportation.
I hope everybody's taking advantage of this amazing bicycling situation. Traffic has been fantastic. This could be, this one silver lining in this cloud. We did cancel our meeting this month, but we were pretty busy the month before. So we do have several resolutions. The first one is the resolution in support of a proposal by the New York City Department of Transportation to improve transportation safety and mobility on 2nd Avenue between East 30th Street and East 32nd Street. One thing, Larry did point out that there's a typo in this, and that we had asked to move the City Bike Station to the north of 33rd Street, and it should be to the south of 33rd Street. And everybody's had the chance to look at this. It's regarding the service road on 2nd Avenue and the conditions at 30th and 2nd Avenue, which are actually quite dangerous. And the DOT has come up with some proposals to how to make it a better crossing for pedestrians and for bicyclists, and the cars as well.
Okay, so let's vote on the supporting the NYC DOT for improved safety on 2nd Avenue from 30th to East 32nd. And since we're not going to do a roll call, then I realize that it's going to be like if someone's opposed, which I know that's probably not the ideal situation. So let's see. But if we want to move forward in that direction, is there any discussion on this resolution? And then Yeah, I feel like that's kind of that's a glitch in this whole thing is if we're
I
still
guess
gonna,
if you want to do it without having to call everyone's name, what we can do is we can start from if you are not entitled, then you can raise your hand. And then we can go on if you abstain, raise your hand, and then if you're opposed, raise your hand, and everybody else will be assumed to be in support.
okay. So so raise your hand, and not this way, but on your Zoom, raise your hand if you are not entitled or abstain. Oh, you can, okay, Claire's literally raising her hand, so okay, she's abstaining. And then again, I can't see the whole screen, so if you guys can see if there are other abstentions. Opposed. And then, so are you guys taking record of this, Jesus and Cody?
Yes.
Okay, and then all those others are in support. So that's how we'll record that. And I don't know, can you say?
So it was Claire who was not entitled,
Yeah.
no abstentions, no opposed, and everyone else in support.
Okay, thank you. Sandy?
Our next resolution is requesting that the Department of Transportation study the safety of school zone intersections across, excuse me, across Community District 6. And this resolution was really the outcome of an article that was published in AM, the newspaper, documenting how many accidents there were at various schools throughout Manhattan. And our district was actually the home to quite a few accidents and sort of hotspots for school safety. We're asking the DOT to study this information and come back with some proposals for how to deal with it.
Okay, so any discussion on this? Is there, I might be reading text too late, but was there a question from Rich, or is this an old?
That's an old question.
Okay, sorry, you guys. I guess I'm doing this out of order. I'm just looking at my agenda, but maybe I printed off an old agenda. Sorry. Okay, so are there any abstentions? Are you guys getting this? Okay, those opposed? All right, and then in support. Are you getting any? Okay, you guys taking account?
Anybody not entitled? Okay.
All right.
And in support, everyone else.
In support.
So it's like unanimous, in support, 0, everything else.
Okay.
Our next resolution is requesting funding for our New York City Department of Transportation research regarding secure bicycle parking. Excuse me. And this is something that we have been discussing in the committee for several months, how to deal with, how to make it secure. We can't really support bicycle use unless we make it safe for people to leave their bicycles when they go to work or while they're at home. So this is asking the DOT to study some of the options that are currently available and to come up with some proposals for us.
Okay, well, let's take a vote on this for the resolution for DOT research regarding secure bike parking. Not those that are not entitled.
Looks like no one.
Abstain.
Looks like no one.
Opposed.
Looks like no one.
And in support. Okay.
Everyone else.
Okay, thank you.
And our final resolution is requesting that New York City Department of Transportation study curbside usage. And this is actually something that CB7 has already requested. And it's really to look to get an overall look at how we're using streets within Manhattan, particularly for our district, but it is meant to be something that could be used Manhattan-wide.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry I didn't ask for discussion or any questions for the other two, but anything? Okay. So those not unentitled, abstain, opposed. Okay.
Looks like everyone is in support.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sandy. Do you have a report?
Thank you. No, hopefully we'll get back to regular meeting next month. And yes, stay safe and healthy and get out and enjoy those empty streets while we can.
But 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart.
6 feet apart, absolutely.
So I did miss John Keller. I'm sorry, John, for Health and Education. John Keller, Chair. I see you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll waive my report.
Okay, thanks, John. Kavitha for the chair for 197A working group.
Kavitha?
Hi, yes. Just a quick update that our consultant that we brought on board, Bennett Midland, is progressing nicely with their scope of work as planned for the MSBI site options. I think we sent out a notice to all the co-chairs that if they had any recommended stakeholders or anyone else we should reach out to let us know. Other than that, I have nothing else to report, and I think my dog is barking in the background, so.
All right, thanks, Kavitha. And then we have Corinne from Housing, Homeless, and Human Rights Chair, Corinne Vanderdonk, and then Kyle has a brief report. I'm sorry, I didn't ask Kyle. And then we have Andrew from the mayor's office. Corinne?
Go ahead, Corinne.
So we had canceled our last meeting. On our upcoming meeting, we will try to discuss what a community board, what kind of role a community board could have in moments like these. I am following along with the 3 different legislations that have been proposed to deal with the upcoming tidal wave of evictions. So there's 3 of them right now. It's one of them Hoylman mentioned. Then there's S8140A, which is but the government would pay 3 months worth of rent. This is sponsored by Brian Kavanaugh and is contingent on federal funds. And then there's S8125A, which is sponsored by Michael Gianaris, that if you can prove loss of income, you don't have to pay rent for an X amount of time. And then when it comes to the homeless situation, the committee has sent out a list of 6 questions to our electeds and other stakeholders. And Brendan is putting it up right now, I believe. And we are waiting to hear back. We heard back from one from Leilani from DHS. I still need to follow up because it seemed like the answers were more about what the theory is of it all, and then what the practice of it all, how that works on a practical level. I'm not quite sure. If Brendan wants to scroll down to the next image, you can see that you can see the average conditions of a homeless shelter and how it's impossible to socially distance yourself in a shelter. And that's it. Okay. Unless anybody has any questions.
No, thanks, Corinne, for doing that. Yeah, Corinne and Cody reached out to the 17th and 13th precinct and our electeds as well to kind of talk about what we can do and how we can help with some of those issues that are kind of bubbling up even worse than they were before, with folks around 30th Street and other areas. Okay, so Kyle, you have a report, and then we'll go to Andrew.
Hey everybody, sorry about that. So just first of all, I just want to thank the board staff for all of the great work that they've been doing. I can only imagine the number of emails that you're all getting, but to be able to coordinate all of this, including tonight's meeting, has been really wonderful. So thank you so much for being a support. The other thing is we are canceling the April meeting for BASA. All of the applicants who wish to show asked to be pushed to a tentative May meeting. So we've canceled the April meeting. But in the interim, as we all know, this is obviously a public health crisis, but it's also an economic one for small business owners, for workers, and we want to do the best that we can to reduce that impact as much as we can. So the first thing, you've probably seen it in your emails, we're compiling a list of all of the open businesses in our district. We're doing this in partnership with all of the bids that are in our district, as well as from public participation as well. The links are on our homepage, on our social media. A couple of our committee members have also tweeted it out as well and put it on their social medias. So we have a list of all the businesses that are open that not only include restaurants, but laundromats, things of that nature, whatever is considered an essential business. So if you can promote that, if you can patronize that in whatever way that you can, please do. And we're also thinking of different, tracking legislation that's currently out there to see how we can best support the small businesses in our area as well. So if anyone has any ideas for things that we can be proactive on, please do reach out to me. Other than that, just please get out the information about the small businesses in the community. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Kyle. I think that Jim has his hand raised.
No, don't worry about it. It was a prior question.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm not seeing the whole screen. So, all right. So we have Andrew. So belatedly joining us from the mayor's office. Are you there, Andrew?
Hi. Thank you so much.
Hey.
So thank you again for having me. I am the new Manhattan Borough Director in the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit, and it is a pleasure to meet all of you. Just a few updates on what the mayor has been doing. Today, the mayor announced a new program called Fun at Home. It is a free new digital platform to provide safe, fun, and entertaining virtual activities for New York City's teens and young adults. This is the first of its kind campaign. It combines city and community resources to engage teens who are at home during the COVID-19 crisis, and also provides tips to cope with the public and mental health challenges that may arise at this difficult time. I will include in the chat the link to that and the phone number to receive text updates. Earlier today, the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City partnered with the Deborah and Leon Black family, the Robin Hood Foundation, Aramark, and the American Red Cross to launch New York City Healthcare Heroes, a citywide philanthropic program to support the heroic efforts of more than 100,000 New York City healthcare professionals on the front lines combating COVID-19. The program will provide at least 300,000 and up to 500,000 packages of food, household cleaning, and personal care products to staff at hospitals across the city. Something that is very prevalent to your particular area, the administration has reached a decision to suspend the Safe Streets pilot. This is part of our ongoing effort to use city resources to promote social distancing. New York City Parks has closed dog runs as part of their ongoing efforts to maintain social distancing in public places. The city has been monitoring parks closely and has observed overcrowding at dog runs and received numerous complaints. This week, New York City Parks will also remove any remaining basketball rims and tennis nets and lock up all courts with a gate, including handball courts. On Friday, New York City closed all playgrounds. Our parks do remain open for the people and dogs to enjoy. The mayor strongly urges all medical professionals who can do so to volunteer at one of the 11 acute care hospitals across 4 boroughs in Manhattan. We could use all the help that we can get. Thank you to each and every one of you for all your time and effort that you give to the community. Without you, we wouldn't be able to effectively share this information. So thank you very much. And we'd like to wish everyone a very happy Easter and Passover, and hope that we get to meet shortly in a face-to-face setting. So thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to funnel them through Jesus Perez or Molly. And I will include in the chat the link to the Fun at Home and also where medical professionals can volunteer to work in one of the city hospitals. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew. We do have a couple questions, and let's see. I don't see Jim's hand raised, but is Jim, or did you have a question? Oh no, he's good.
I have
Okay.
a question. No, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. And yourself?
When I've gone grocery shopping, I've noticed that a lot of the groceries stores tend to be crowded. I've tried to go early in the morning, but this morning I had to bundle a second trip, so I went around 10 o'clock, 10:30 a.m. And I'm wondering if the mayor is considering limiting the volume of people entering grocery stores to shop at any one time. I know one of the chains is currently limiting the number of shoppers to 5 per 1,000 square feet of occupied space. So that seems to me to be a reasonable limit. And also, if there was some way perhaps to schedule shopping hours in a grocery store, perhaps through an app of some sort.
Yeah, that's a great question. So about the scheduling, certain grocery stores throughout the city have begun doing early morning seniors only shopping. So
Right.
it's a little
They
less
tend to be
crowded.
very crowded though, believe it or not.
Yeah. We have asked all supermarkets, and this was a little while ago, to cut down to at most 50% capacity. And if you do see a supermarket that is what you think above 50% capacity, or you feel is not maintaining social distancing efforts, please call 311. Please.
Well, it's not so much the capacity, okay, because each of the stores obviously has a regular capacity. But what happens is you tend to get a lot of people at the checkout counters, a lot of people at the produce aisles, and at some of the fresh meat sections, which is why I would suggest something on the order of, like, for example, the store I was in today is probably, I don't know, 15,000 square feet. So 45 people, perhaps, you know what I mean? Or let's say it's a 10,000 square foot store. So 50 people, okay? Something of that nature. If I'm doing the math right. Claude can check me on that.
So what we don't need to do the math right now, but what I can do is say that I can present these ideas to the mayor, and he will work with the agency advisors to see what is best that we can go forward for the good of the constituents, the community, and the grocery stores, because we do want to make sure that everybody can get the food when they need it. But we do want to make sure that everybody is practicing social distancing and not being put into a position where they have no choice to do so just because they have to go get some food. So that is certainly something that we can look into more, and I can circle back with some answers for you.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah,
And then
I
think-
appreciate it, because the grocery stores are literal Petri dishes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to, I think Anne had a question, and then we have some member from the neighborhood, from the community joining, and I don't see her. I'm not sure if you guys can allow Kathy Thompson to speak after Anne.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Anne?
Yeah, hi. I am curious about, I know parks are open, and I just want to confirm that Pops also are supposed to be open. The Pops on my corner, which is notorious for closing, using any excuse to close, every time I've been out over the last few weeks, it's been closed. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. And I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do to enforce it? It's really a good pops for a situation like this because the seating is linear, so it's pretty easy to space out. And there's just so few places to go, and especially in this district, that losing this one, it's just unnecessary.
So another great question. It's my understanding, and I do want to get clarification on this, but these are public owned spaces. Excuse me, they're privately owned public spaces that are required to stay open. And I will certainly look further into this, but as my understandings, these should be remaining open for people as long as they are continuing to practice social distancing. And if the local precinct or the overseeing agency for the particular location does deem that social distancing is not being practiced, they may go in and close that. And that would be for each individual location. But as of now, I do believe that they should be open. But again, I will follow back with a 100% confirmed answer on that for you.
Thanks, Andrew. And let's see, and then Kathy Thompson.
Kathy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Before I tell you what I was going to tell you, Molly, I just want to say regarding Anne and the Pocket Park, and I know she's lived there a long time. I lived across the street from it a long time. It's extremely notorious where all of the guys from 30th Street and the women from 45th Street, the two different shelters, congregate, drink, do drugs, do all kinds of other stuff. I feel like that probably it was locked for that reason. Of course, now they're all congregating together on the street, on 45th Street, and causing problems there. But I'm certain that that's why they locked that Pocket Park, was because this was going to be a hazard, which it is. But the other hazard, the one that I was talking to you about, is this is the third time I've seen this now, and like I wouldn't have even said anything, but it's happened 3 times that I know of. Is Keats, the bar on 2nd Avenue between, I want to say 43rd and 44th. Yes.
So this isn't really a question for Andrew. This is more for us, right? Internally.
Oh, that's
Well, this is certainly a question that I can take, because if
Okay.
this is an establishment that is still open, I myself will be going and making sure that they are closed along with the Sheriff's Department, PD, FDNY and whatnot. So please.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you. So the first day I was walking from south to north, I was like at the, a block away, and I saw a crowd of people standing on the sidewalk. And as I got up closer, I realized that it was a group of people hanging out outside Keats, like they would normally be doing if they're smoking or something under normal circumstances. I couldn't take a picture that day because they were all facing me and I was walking towards them. But, they had the doors open and, everybody's standing around with a drink in their hands. There was about 6 people that day drinking, hanging out. I saw it again with only 2 or 3 people. And then today I did manage to take a picture of 2 guys, but I got up close enough this time to see they have set the bar up in the doorway, or like one of those sliding. So like all the beers with the happy hour sign and everything, like it's like you could just step up, like, you're ordering a to go at some takeout place where they have the window on the street. That's how they have it there, except it's not a window, it's just wide open. So they just moved the bar from inside to outside. So they're all hanging out with their cups. I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, we're waiting for our takeout order of French fries or whatever for 3 hours. Because, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. They're all hanging out having drinks. So
okay, we'll deal with it. Yeah, Kathy, I think we can talk to the 17th precinct, the office, and then now Andrew's aware, so we can try to tackle that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, so Andrew, anything else? Thank you for joining. And how do you pronounce your last name?
My last name is Kunkus, Andrew Kunkus.
Okay, thank you.
And
appreciate
one
it.
note, I think I might have had one of your board members, Karen Vanderdonk, as a customer when I used to work at Metro Bicycles on 14th Street.
Oh, Corinne,
So
yeah.
there is, I see her head shaking, so we'll have to rekindle that one day. Pleasure to see you again. But I once again look forward to working with you guys, not only on this COVID issue, but on everything else that is happening in the district. And thank you again for all the hard work that each and every one of you do.
Thank
It's
you, Andrew.
Really, greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Oh, wait, Claire has one quick question. We're running
Yeah.
very, very long, so I was hoping to kind of like move along, but Claire, go ahead. Oh, is she unmuted? I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, you're unmuted, Claire.
We can't hear you. Front row.
While she figures that out, there appears to be another question. Should we take that one? And while she,
Yeah, and then let's like, okay, where is the last question?
Andrew
Hey,
Gross.
Andrew here.
Oh, okay.
Hi, so from Andrew to Andrew. By the way, I'm a friend of Penny Ringle on your team, so regards to him. My basically it's more of a comment. I follow social distancing like we're supposed to. I go out and enjoy the East River Greenway. I go running, which is the only physical activity you can basically do now. And I feel like there really needs to be more law enforcement out in those areas. On warm days, there's still a lot of people out there. And I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do in terms of like how to enforce, but the PD presence is light. And I just think that everybody's going to these hot points still. And you may want to consider, ramping up the presence out there.
Yeah, so please, anytime any of the board members or anybody in the public sees social distancing not being practiced, do not hesitate to call 311 or call your local precinct, and an agency will respond. They are supposed to respond within 30 minutes. About 45 minutes after the report is made, I get a message and I go and check on the agencies to make sure that they responded and are doing their job appropriately, and that the social distancing does not happen again as soon as they leave. So please continue to funnel those in. 311, the precinct, if you get them to your district manager, to your board, whoever, get to me. We will make sure that people are going out and stopping that social distancing. And I do believe Governor Cuomo has kind of ramped up the fines for not practicing social distancing to almost $1,000. So I hope that helps people practice it as well. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. I don't know if we got Claire back, but
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, I'm just wondering what is special about Prospect Park that makes the mayor more effective in doing his job than local parks. We have Central Park, Astor Levy. I know that he hates this question, but I think he's really setting a terrible example for the rest of the city, and we all should be staying in place. And if you need that fresh air, go to your closest park, and a park 11 miles away is certainly not setting a good example. So I was wondering if there was some special glitter there that helps him do his job more, and then maybe we'll all start going there.
What I can say is Prospect Park is one of New York City's wonderful parks, and it is what makes New York City such an amazing place. As far as the mayor, he has been at City Hall every single day dealing with this, and he has not gone to the gym out in Prospect Park or in that area of Brooklyn. He has been doing everything he can to devote 100% of his efforts to the COVID-19 crisis. However, the mayor does like to go for a walk from time to time. And if he is near Prospect Park, or if he is near another great park in New York City, he may choose to go for a walk there. But I do know that he is giving his all, and City Hall is really giving their all to tackling this crisis. So I hope that at least in the short term, we can look past this and stick to the crisis or the pandemic at hand, and know that we are all working our hardest to tackle this issue.
Great. Well, thank you, Andrew. All right. So with that, we're moving into old or new business. And so if anyone has old or new business, please raise your hand. And again, I only see half the screen. So if you guys,
There
anyone?
appear to be no hands.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move into second roll call with Seema Shah, our secretary. Seema?
Mute. I'm trying to unmute.
All right. Oh,
I-
hi, everyone.
I have old business.
Oh.
It's too late. Yeah.
Lou.
Oh,
1 second, Lou.
All right, Lou.
There
State
you go.
state your new business.
old business.
State your old business.
In late February, it was noted that all of the caissons in the East River south of 59th Street have been removed. And those caissons were to be used to sustain the greenway from 60th to 54th Streets. A memo was sent around, but there doesn't seem to have been any follow-up. And so it would be helpful to know, first of all, why wasn't the board informed of an intent to remove the caissons before they were taken away? What happened to the caissons between 58th and 52nd Streets? The reason and policy for removing the caissons? What agencies authorized their removal, and why wasn't Board 6 consulted? Were all agencies concerned with the caissons involved in the decision? And what impact is that going to have on the section of the Greenway proposed, the section cost and timing? Because there's been 2 years worth of planning for the superstructure on the Greenway, and those plans were forwarded starting in 2019. And the Economic Development Corporation published a document November 22nd of 2019 regarding the superstructure on the Greenway. And
Lou, can you submit those things in writing? Because I've talked to you about this several times, and I do believe Transportation and Land Use has talked to you about this. The office has given you the answers.
This material was submitted, but there's been no follow-up and no feedback. And
Well, the feedback is the project moved forward and they removed the caissons for safety. They removed them to their repairing and replacing the whole. That's the answer. So we
well,
can.
that's the official answer, but that doesn't gel with the construction of the caissons from way back. When they were originally constructed to hold up the reliever highway, they were not built to be durable.
Right. Can you send that in again? If we'll get it in writing back to you. So we'll have it in writing from EDC with the answers. So send that all your questions in writing. I think that we've talked about this several times, and I guess you're not convinced that what the answer is, but that the answer is the same answer. So but we'll get it in writing from EDC and get that back to you. But send in those questions. It sounds like you have them written down. So let's we can answer them that way. All right. Okay.
With all due respect, the official line is that the caissons were not durable, but in point of fact, after the roadway was removed, rebars and concrete were put into those caissons to give them a life expectancy, the state said, of 100 years. I would like to see the board follow up.
We will do that for you. We will do that. Okay. We'll do that for you. Okay. Thank you, Lou. Thank you. So let's move into the second roll call with Seema.
Through this as quickly as possible. I have to go in the same order as I did last time. It's what the system allows. Starting with Kyle.
Here.
Okay, Asia.
Here.
Martin Barrett.
Here.
Elvie. Joan Berenbaum. Okay, I don't hear her. Matt Bondi.
Here.
Oh. That was you, Joan? I'm sorry.
That was me.
Okay, got it. Matt Bondi.
Here.
Claire.
Here.
Jim Collins.
Here,
Dan Devine.
just in time, apparently.
Dan Devine. Beatrice Dismon.
Here.
Janine D'Onofrio.
Here.
Richard Eggers.
Here.
Andrew Gross.
Here.
Adam Hartke.
Here.
Molly Hollister.
Here.
Paige Judge.
Here.
Yusuf Khalid. John Keller.
Here.
Yusuf, I noted you down because I think you were not able to unmute yourself last time. Kathleen Kelly. Kathleen? Not here. Abigail Cruzmark.
Here.
Anton Malner.
Here.
Kavita Matthew.
Here.
Sandra McKee.
Here.
Wells Magali.
Present.
Richard Mintz.
Here.
Karen Moore. Philip Napolitano.
Here.
Rajesh Nair. Kevin O'Keefe.
Here.
Rishma Patel.
Here.
Matt Roberts.
Here.
Gene Santoro.
I think so.
Sounds good. Frank Scala. Lauren Scherer.
Here.
Ann Seligman.
Present.
Lou Sapersky.
Yo.
Seema Shah. Sandro Sherrod.
Present.
Letty Simon.
Here, and thank you to Molly and the board for a great meeting.
Yay. Susan Steinberg.
Here.
Mark Thompson.
Over here in the corner.
Karen Vanderdonk.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Pam Vassal.
Here.
Ronnie White. I think you were here last time, Ronnie. I just couldn't hear you. And Claude Winfield.
He's at home.
Okay, you guys, this is it. If there are no objections, everyone raise their hands. You want to keep this going, right? No objections.
Yeah, please.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Bye.
Oh.
Thank you.
Andrew, emerge from the bunker now.